Universalist Church of St. Petersburg. My name is Ben, and I am the minister here. I'm so excited for today's question box service. Those of you here for the first time and you were expecting me to have actually done work and written something, I didn't. A lot of my Unitarian Universalist colleagues do this once a year, but I am new not just to hear, hey, nice to see you too, long time. I am new not just to St. Petersburg, but I am new to ministry. So this is my first question box service, and I'm very excited about it. So there's still time if you want to quickly write a question, and it'll be hard to be anonymous because you're going to have to come up here and put it in the box. But thank you, all of you. Many of you submitted many questions, not surprisingly, and I'm not going to get to all of them, but I will get to as many of them as I can. And I am excited to be joined by today's worship associate, Beth Stombaugh.
Thanks, Ben. We are a people of many beliefs, but we share a common faith that what we do in the world matters and that we are connected to one another and to our planet. Whoever you are, wherever you are in your journey, you are. By request, from this Sunday onward, we will have an outdoor option for coffee hour. The doors are unlocked to both the courtyard and the playground in the back. Feel free to bring your food and drinks there.
All right, thanks, Beth. And next week, very exciting, I will be writing something because it is our annual in-gathering and water communion. So number one, bring some water. It can be from your tap. It's all good. We're going to have a water communion ceremony. And then after the ceremony, we're going to be resetting our covenant groups. Now, covenant groups are how we do small group ministry here at UU St. Pete. It's a real strength of this congregation that happened long before I got here. So you'll have an opportunity to sign up, and covenant group leaders, please bring sign-up sheets that day with the time and place that your covenant group meets. And then finally, we will be holding the first new member class right after worship. So 12 of you have signed up for that already. Very exciting. Please see myself or Vonda or Carol. Carol is greeting, and I don't see Vonda. So see one of us if you want more information about that new member class. And speaking of new members, I want to welcome anyone that is new or new-ish today or who hadn't been here in a while. And if you want to just give a wave if you're new or new-ish, that would be great. And we can wave back to you. Hello, wavers. Good to see you. Now, if you haven't done this part before, you can say a little something about who you are and why you're here, but you don't have to. That is terrifying for some people. But if you want to, we'd love to hear a little bit from you. And I will then repeat it into the microphone so our friends on YouTube Live can hear what you said. Did you raise your hand? You've been here before. Trish, no, that wasn't you. I have the teacher's eye where if anyone moves their hand, I'm like, yes, Trish. All right. Thank you for wearing masks while you're in the worship service. Really appreciate it. I'll be putting mine on as I go out to greet you in a minute, but I will first say that Kelly Olson is live streaming today and got us online moments ago. Well done, Kelly. Our greeters are Jerry Humpner-Gatz, Dick Miller, Patty Kane Wood, and Carol Ulmer. Bill Motter is volunteering with religious education today. Thank you, Bill, alongside Janae Johnson, our Director of Religious Education and Communications, and Ms. Trish. Let's take a moment to greet one another, but make sure you get consent if you're going to shake their hand or anything like that.
Our flaming chalice is a symbol of Unitarian Universalism. It is a symbol of hope, the sacred, the quest for truth, the warmth of community, the light of reason, and so much more. When Ben lights our chalice, I invite you to say our covenant out loud. The words can be found in the text chat. Feel free to follow along with the two hand movements. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Now, please rise as you are willing and able for our first hymn, Wake Now My Senses. It's number 298 in the gray hymnal, and we will sing all 5 verses.
Joanne, you want to come here? Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Deep the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who asks for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care. You may be seated. Hi.
This is a reading by H.P. Rivers, who is a director of RE in Tallahassee. It's a pagan retelling of the prayer of St. Francis. It's called, It is in Questioning That We Find Answers. Goddess, make me an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, let me know love. Where there is injury, healing. Where there is doubt, reassurance. Where there is challenge, compassion. Where there is pain, rest. O Divine Mother, grant that I may not so much seek to control as to co-create, to be understood as to understand myself, to be admired as to be seen. For it is in the giving that we receive. It is in questioning that we find answers. And it is in honoring ourselves that we live to our highest good. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Thank you, Beth. Now we come to our time in the worship service for joys, sorrows, and concerns. Now on YouTube Live, please type your joys, sorrows, and concerns in the text chat. And here, you submit them to me during the week the email minister@uustpete.org, or some people put them as comments on our Facebook group. But if you have one this week and you have filled out a card, much like the one that Beth has, I believe, a sample of, that says Joys and Sorrows, you can raise your hand. I will come get that card. And right now, Eli and Jade will place a stone. Thank you, Jade. Thank you, Eli. In the water for each one that was submitted this week.
First, we have a stone from Karen Cole. Dave had an outpatient procedure this past Thursday. May he continue to heal.
Maybe so. Next, a stone of joy from Ann and Fred Seidel. Their friend, who is a political refugee from Congo, has been working for 3 years to reunite with his 2 daughters who are still in Africa. And on Wednesday, the 2 girls had a successful visa interview at the U.S. consulate and are now very close to completing the process to be reunited with their parents. The girls tell the Seidels that the U.S. consular officer conducting the interview was very kind, for which they're grateful, and their hope is the family will be together in the United States this Christmas. Blessed be.
Next, we have a stone of thanks from Johanna Zeman, who flew home safely to New England this morning.
A stone of joy from the staff that John and James got back safely to St. Pete. They are here. They are probably sleeping after the 11.5-hour drive. So if you're not sleeping and you're on YouTube, blessings, John and James, and the staff got a surprise gift for you. You want to know what it is? You'll have to wait and see.
We're very glad that you 2 are back. Let's see here.
What's that?
Yes.
They will be
they'll
here
be
next
here
Sunday.
next Sunday.
They will be leading music and doing, thank you, and doing tech, much to the relief of Rebecca, myself, and Kelly.
Next, we have a stone of concern from Kelly Patton. My dad, who is in the hospital after being hit by a car while riding his motorcycle. I am grateful that his injuries were not worse, but hoping that he recovers quickly and is able to get back to his very active lifestyle soon.
Okay. A stone of concern from David who says, my first foster child I am to be advocate as a guardian is an 8-year-old toddler? 8-year-old toddler. Thank you, David. May we bring to mind and hold close to our hearts Dave Cole, Ann and Fred Seidel's friend, David and your person, your guardian ad litem for. Also Kelly's dad and anyone else who is facing health concerns. And may we also continue working for universal health care in the United States so that no one need worry about the financial burden in receiving needed health care. May all who are facing challenges, known and unknown, find a comforting presence in the warmth of fellowship and community. And we'll place one final stone, well, you will, for all those joys, sorrows, and concerns that remain in our hearts, perhaps too tender to yet be spoken out loud. And let's take a moment of silence together. The mystery is that we are connected even when we feel apart. So let us rejoice in the beloved community that makes of the many one. So may it be. Compassion. Angela, is it all right if we switch up this with time for all ages and we do that first? Okay, great. So then now, in that case, now it's time for all ages. If any kids want to come forward, we're going to do a mini version of the question box. Good to see you both. Come on up. Okay, so usually, where do I stand? Well, you're not here usually. Usually when I say the long thing, which we call the reflection, I'm standing up here, and you guys are in your classes. But this time, I'm not standing up there. I am going to be down here, and I don't have anything written. Well, I have a few notes written, but I'm going to be answering questions that they have given to me. So for this time for all ages, I'm answering questions from you. So what questions do you have of me? Takes a second. All right, Eli, then Jade.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I like an easy one. 56. I know, so old.
My teacher's 56.
56, your teacher?
Have you ate a banana?
Have I what now?
Have you ate a banana?
Have I eaten a banana ever? Like ever or today? I have ever eaten a banana, yes. These are great questions and so much easier than the ones you sent.
How do you do the the grape trick?
Oh, the grape trick, okay. So first I have to explain to them what the grape trick is, right? That's going to take a second. I need a mic stand. How do I do the grape trick? The grape trick is very similar to, I need my phone out of my pocket too. The grape trick is this, except it's a grape instead of my grandmother's precious ring, where I'd basically take it and I fling it into the air and then it's gone. And then it's probably in this hand, so I drop it there and then it's gone as well. Yeah. And then I've lost my grandmother's ring, so that's a terrible side effect, and I shouldn't have done this trick. But eventually, it shows up maybe behind someone's head. And do you really want me to know? Do you really want to know? All right. So how I do it is called, remember I told you magic is real? Well, it is. And sometimes you get to be the ones to create the magic. And how I create this magic is by a thing called sleight of hand, which is when I'm grabbing it like this, I'm actually leaving it in this hand here. But your audience will follow what you're interested in. So you do like this and you get really interested in this hand. It's still down here, but people follow your eyes, not the thing. So here's what it looks like again. And then when you do something really dramatic, like throw it up, people really follow it, so you can sneak it into your pocket and quickly hold it up again like it's still in that hand so that it's gone from there. And then you're doing stuff with this other hand so you can sneak it back out of the pocket, and you do a thing called palming, which is this, so people don't see it until you bring it back. Sleight of hand. Someone your age, you can practice that with probably a penny or a dime or something, or a quarter. Okay. I'm going to see if any of you two or three have questions who haven't asked a question yet. Yeah.
Do you really have a playground?
Do we really have a playground? It's called the playground, and I don't know why. Did we used to have a playground there? We did used to? Okay. What happened to it? It got old and like rusty and stuff, so it's still called the playground, but there is no actual swing set or slide. Would you like to have a playground there? Would you like to have a playground there? All right, yeah, me too. Can we at least have a pool?
No. Well,
You don't remember, or are you thinking of how to ask it?
well,
We'll come back to you if you think of your question. Do either of you have a question for me? No, you don't? No, you don't. Okay, last chance. 3. Yep.
I forgot.
I forgot too. Well, that is, I know, and I forgot just a lot of things. Thank you. You have been wonderful questioners, and you will now get to go to your classes. Go now in peace. Go now. Thanks, Angela. They were looking a little bored, so we moved that up. Today's view from the pew is Angela Yarber. I'm very excited for it. Angela began attending the church a couple of months ago with her family, and they're going to go to the membership class as soon as we figure out how to make that happen. Welcome, Angela.
As the American embassy was bombed in 1999, I was hunkered in a Russian Orthodox church in Moscow, gazing at the brooding, whitewashed faces of countless male icons, hands raised in endlessly frightening benediction. Where are all the women? As a sensory overload accosted my eyes at St. Catherine's Monastery on the Sinai Peninsula, I scanned the scene to find only 2 women crammed among all the icons. At the Temple of 1,000 Buddhas in Thailand, not one woman was portrayed, and I continued to ask, where are all the women? Thus began a new lifelong project, Holy Women Icons. Subverted, feminized, queered, folked, resisted, and, I hope, revolutionary. Confronted with a virtually all-male sainthood in every major wisdom tradition, my art gives traditional iconography a folk feminist twist. Now over 125 icons fill the ever-growing collection, with over 100 sold in homes, galleries, faith communities, and schools all over the world. I'm Reverend Dr. Angela Yarber, mother to Raya and Lillian, wife to Elizabeth, author, artist, minister, and professor. I've been reading the newsletter for over a year now, and my family started attending about 2 months ago. And beginning next week, the social hall will transform into a gallery of sorts, as my Queering the Dream exhibition will fill our space with color, art, and subversion as we attempt to decolonize our feminism together. Functioning as a church fundraiser, the art will be for sale along with prints and books, because one day I'd like to stop asking, where are all the women? My art is an opportunity to see women, and particularly queer women and/or women of color, whose stories remain hidden in the crevices of our canons at best, strategically erased at worst. Enlivened by the second of the UU's 6 sources, the words and deeds of prophetic people which challenge us to confront powers and structures of evil with justice, compassion, and the transforming power of love, I hope you'll join me next Sunday through December 4th in the Social Hall Gallery to celebrate these prophets through art. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Can you play that louder? That's like the perfect music to Please rise as you are willing and able for hymn number 131 in the gray hymnal, Love Will Guide Us. You won't be able to see me if I sit down, will you? I can't tell if that harmony worked because the monitor's not working. Kelly thinks it worked. It's okay to sit down? No, but then they don't see me, see? They don't see me. On YouTube, they see me, but they don't see me here. So, like I said at the beginning, a lot of my colleagues do this question box service. It's my first time doing it, and you have submitted questions aplenty. I'll answer as many as I can, as thoroughly as I can, and stay within the time. I did make some notes, so I might check them occasionally, and the first question is the last one I received just now, and the question is, how do you respond to a person whose rigid belief system says they are the only correct one, and everyone else is going to hell? So that's not too hard of a one. I would probably respond, if they're here in this church, by saying, this may not be a good fit for you. Some folks like to say that, oh, it's Unitarian Universalists. They believe anything. And that's not quite true. I think in particular, the two parts of that question, the part that's my belief system is the only one, then it will be hard for you to be comfortable here. And also the belief in the existence of hell, I think is a bit incompatible with at least our modern faith. And then, does that make sense? Does it's sort of weird, like I don't have all the answers to these questions. Like, this is a perfect first question because, you know, just because I say it, it doesn't mean that's the truth. Each of us has our own truth, and that's what our faith is founded on in many ways, is the concept of freedom of thought and freedom of belief. I had a really nice conversation with a congregant about this on Friday. And so the idea of this question box where the congregation asks the questions and I provide the answers, these are really my answers that are my beliefs and coming from my perspective. For example, as a white 54-year-old bisexual, cisgender, raised middle/working class person in the United States, which is very different than someone who is not all of those things. One of my favorite jokes about Unitarian Universalism is, how do you tell the difference between a Unitarian Universalist minister and a Jehovah's Witness? Well, the Unitarian Universalist minister will knock on your door and ask you what you believe. Question 2, the cells in a body are constantly replaced. If it were a car, after a few decades, no part would carry the original VIN number to be able to be titled. This is still the question. Conscious awareness fades away into sleep every night. Memories are forgotten and skewed. Is there any continuous phenomenon to substantiate the belief of one being a separate self? Right? These are the kind of questions I got. Stop me after 11:30. Thank you for the question. I mean, as far as a phenomenon, that I think that implies a little to me scientific phenomenon, and I don't know. As far as the theological question of the belief of one being a separate self, I mean, again, it depends on your individual belief system. If you're a Hindu Unitarian Universalism, you believe in, I think it's called the Atman, the soul. And if you're a Buddhist, you believe, depending on the kind of Buddhism, you believe in An-Atman, or the no soul. And that's both an individual and a collective concept, is my understanding, between Hinduism and Buddhism. And I'm looking for nods or like, what? No. But that's what I remember from divinity school. I repeated this question to my mom in the car ride this morning at 5 a.m., bringing her to Tampa Airport, because she was saying, what kind of questions did you get? I'm like, I got this one. And we had a pretty deep and neat conversation for that early. She said that what you do, sorry Mom if I'm remembering this wrong, she said that what you do is more important than who you are. And she said, I've heard her say to me in the past, her belief in science that your atoms stay in the universe, and maybe when they're not part of your body anymore, they're part of a plant or they're part of a star. Now, personally, I focus less on the idea of an individual self and soul and more on the interdependence. So, South African Episcopal Archbishop Desmond Tutu, his theology is called Ubuntu, which literally translates to I am because you are. I'll say that again. I am because you are. Next question is, what lies beyond the conceivable universe? I don't know. But again, I am curious what you think. So my own personal theology is twofold. I am a pagan, so I believe that the earth is alive and is a living mother goddess. And I came to that belief through a personal experience with the divine, where I felt in 1986 a sense of presence of the earth being alive, of the goddess being alive. And that feeling has never left me since that day, although it comes and goes in volume. And my other belief system I've come to know is called pantheism. Now that's different than what I thought was pantheism, which is actually polytheism. That's a belief in multiple gods. What pantheism is a belief that there is divine energy in me and in you and in these pews and in this chalice made by Mordecai Roth, that there is no separation from that which is created and the creator energy. That's also a womanist belief from womanism theology. So, for a pantheist, everything's here in the known universe. So our theology, as I understand it, does not need something beyond that. Then there's panentheism. Don't fall asleep yet. Panentheism is everything in pantheism, and also the belief that there is something outside of it. So a panentheist believes that there is creator energy everywhere and in between you and me in the pew, and that there's something else also outside the known universe. So a panentheist would say, yes, they do believe that there's something, and there's something divine, there's something supernatural, there's some kind of creator energy beyond the conceivable universe. Make sense? Some of you. What are the main purposes of Unitarian Universalist Church of St. Petersburg? Such a good question. It is what we are in fact asking ourselves right now through the transition process. And Rebecca, who former transition team member, current board chair, is nodding her head. And many of us asked many of you that question, and you answered it, those of you who have been here throughout last year. So ask each other that question, since we are kind of trying to solidify what it is. And if you ask me, which you are because you submitted this to me, my thoughts are, after 1 year of ministry, the UU St. Pete is this beautiful combination of covenant and social justice, but kind of intertwined, like not the one separate from the other. That we, as we say at the beginning, we come from many faiths, but we share a common belief that what we do in this world matters, that we are connected to one another and to the earth. I keep wanting to say anything to add. It's a question box service, but anything to add? These are so juicy. This would be good. This would be a good covenant group questions. What is the purpose of a sermon? Or if you prefer, reflection. The worship team does prefer the term reflection. I was saying sermon at the beginning, and I was corrected. Thank you, worship team. I touched on this, I think, a couple weeks ago, or was it last week, that the traditional and I think I said patriarchal notion of a sermon is the summit of what happens on Sunday, and that all the other things like songs and quotes and guest speakers are what did I say, like ornaments on the Christmas tree, of which the center of the tree is the sermon, I guess. And so here we do it differently. The worship team builds upon this idea that we have for the worship service, and that itself is taken from a brainstorm in the worship team meeting, which then itself is taken for the themes that we get from the Soul Matters curriculum. So to answer the specific question, the purpose of a reflection is to merge well with those things. So to merge well with the songs, the hymns that Rebecca and I chose, with the words that Angela said that I got to see before this. So how do my comments here merge with those and enhance those? And what's the purpose of the whole worship service, you may ask? In divinity school, I heard it said that our job is to, what was it? Comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. Yeah. And again, this combination of covenant, so to provide certainly inspiration, solace, but also to facilitate, and in some ways it's the job of a community organizer to help organize this activist community, this covenantal community. And by activist, I mean that in the larger sense of the world, of the word. You don't have to be somebody who, well, if you cannot sing like angels, if you cannot speak before thousands, you can give from deep within you. You can change the world with your love. To me, an activist is not somebody who stands up with a sign at a protest. It is somebody who loves deeply, sometimes somebody who gives from within on a level that's not standing up here with the microphone. So that's, I think, what we're about, the combination of that and supporting each other while in our lives, in our personal lives, but also to change the world. Make sense? Wish I could say that in shorter, like an elevator version of that. Are there Unitarian Universalists in other countries? Yes. I've gotten to know several leaders in the Canadian Unitarian Association. A lot of the international folks are not label themselves UU, they are called Unitarian. And our forebears in the United Kingdom and Europe are Unitarian. There's, I think, 46 congregations in the Canadian Unitarian Association. And I know this partly because they passed the 8th principle this past year, and we have not as the Unitarian Universalist Association. Also, the woman who founded the Unitarian Universalist Hysterical Society, which is a group I've been active with and that some of you are on Facebook. It's got like 130,000 members in it. Liz is a Canadian Unitarian. There are also indigenous Unitarian and UU groups in India, Pakistan, the Philippines, Russia, Spain, New Zealand. You're nodding, Carol. Am I forgetting? Romania, yeah. And they have a bishop too. So they have different polity. Polity is how you run your denomination. So we have congregational polity. The highest authority is this congregation. And they have I think it's called a presbytery. I don't know what it is, but it's not congregational polity. They have bishops. Oh, and the UK, obviously, has a whole bunch. England, Scotland. And Transylvania, too. Transylvania, that's part of Romania? Yeah, and that's where the bishop is. Yes? Burundi has Unitarians or Unitarian Universalists? Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Mexico, thank you. Where else? Cool. There used to be an International Council of Unitarians and Universalists, and I believe they closed, but I don't know what it was replaced with. How are we doing for time? 11:15? You still good? Couple more questions? You want to have coffee? More questions? Coffee. More questions? Okay, more questions. All right. What year did the Unitarians and Universalists merge? What are the differences between the two, And which did this church begin as? So, Unitarians and Universalists merged in, everybody? 1961, well done. Although the youth merged apparently like a decade or so earlier. The predecessor, what was before YRUU? Anyway, the young adult and youth movements within both denominations merged long before the adults did. And so both Unitarianism and Universalism were historically Christian denominations, though I think modern Unitarian Universalism is not. There are certainly many Christian UUs, but as I said before, there are many humanist UUs, pagan UUs, Muslim UUs, etc. So Unitarianism specifically was a belief in one God, rather than the Trinity, belief in the Trinity. This was a really controversial notion, so much so that Michael Servetus in Spain in the 1500s wrote a book called Against the Trinity? Is that what his book was called? Something like that. And it so enraged John Calvin that Calvin had him tried for heresy, and he was burned to the stake with this book strapped to him. Kids are gone, right? So Unitarianism, and that then gained more traction in Transylvania, in modern-day Romania, because the king there, unlike Calvin, was religiously tolerant. And in fact, the first law to say you can't persecute someone because they have a different religion was passed by that king, and it was called, anyone? Come on. The Edict of Torda. The Edict of Torda. Calvinism is more the opposite, more like you got to believe this way. John Calvin. The Edict of Torda, Torda, in modern-day Romania. So Unitarianism then came over to the United States as part of the Puritan movement, wanting religious freedom from the state-controlled Church of England. And it split from Congregationalism during the 1800s, I think over the Trinitarianism, Unitarianism. The clergy were elite, were college educated, and it was actually the state church. We had a state church in Massachusetts, my home state. The initial town halls were not town halls, it was the church. You had to register at the wasn't called Unitarianism, but at that church, the first church in whatever those towns are, is where you registered as a citizen. So if you were, for example, Universalist and didn't want to go to that church, you weren't even considered a citizen, which brings me to Universalism. Universalism was a belief in universal salvation, that all of us are going to heaven. So because of this, the Calvinists in the time thought, how are you going to be moral if you are not in fear of hell? If you're not in, why would you do anything good if you're not just doing it because you don't want to be punished? And Universalists were like, because everyone's going to heaven and we believe in collective salvation. But the Calvinists were in charge, the Unitarians and the Congregationalists and everybody else. And so Universalists were kept from owning property, kept from being on juries. The Universalist religion was more a rural religion, and the ministers came from the congregation, much like Baptists are called because of direct experience with the divine, with Christian divine still, it's firmly Christian, although Universalists, I think, were, even before Unitarians saw the divine in nature, what the Unitarians would call the, what's that movement, what? Oh, thank you. The Transcendentalists, Emerson and others. Even before Transcendentalism was cool, with Ralph Waldo Emerson and the others, Universalists saw the divine in nature. That was a long answer. the part of the question of which were we, because we began in 1914, many years before 1961, and this building was constructed in 1929. So who thinks, how many think we were founded as Unitarian? Okay, how many think we were founded as Universalist? All right, there's only a few of you raised your hand, so what do the rest of you think? Yeah, it is both. It is both. You know our history, or you looked at the website. It's such great history. It's such great history. For those who didn't raise your hand, we did in fact begin as both, which was, I think, very unique. Two families, one Unitarian and one Universalist, actually first the Universalist family, began this church, and their first called minister was a woman, Reverend Ella Elizabeth Bartlett, and you can find out more on our website. Click on About Us. That was fun. Where are we as a congregation with the eighth principle? And is this a congregational issue or a denominational issue or something in between? I touched on the Canadian Unitarian Council's passage of the eighth principle, but some of you might be saying, what's the eighth principle? So I will let you know that first. It was, we have historically 7 principles listed very helpfully on this bookmark that I like to carry around with me, because yes, I do forget them. The 6 sources that we draw from are on the back. But a woman named Paula Cole Jones, who spent 15 years doing diversity and multiculturalism work within Unitarian Universalism, proposed it along with Bruce Pollock Johnson in 2013, and it reads, "We, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and our institutions." Now, Paula Cole Jones was the director of racial and social justice for the UUA Joseph Priestley District back when we had district offices. And after all that time working with our folks, she realized that a person can believe they can be a good UU without, and even follow the 7 principles without really thinking or dealing with racism or any other oppressions on a systemic level. And her evidence was that most UU organizations are primarily white, are primarily Euro-American in membership, in culture, especially music, and in leadership, even when located in or near diverse communities, as we are located. She realized that an 8th principle was needed to correct this, and she proposed it to the UUA in 2017, and that's where you all came into the picture, because my understanding is that in 2017 there was a conference sponsored by BLUE, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism, and some of you went, including our former board chair Michael Kaloran and my predecessor Reverend Jack Donovan. You all came back on fire about the 8th principle, and Reverend Jack came back not liking it. Jack thought that anti-racism was already covered in the 7 principles that we have, and he worried that adopting the 8th principle would undermine the foundations, literally, of our denomination. You can see more about his views on that in his sermon on the topic, which was either the last or the second to last worship service that he led when he was here. So that's on our website. Those of you on our website right now, just click back on previous services. The conflict in between in particular Reverend Jack and Michael over the 8th principle did result in Michael and his husband not just leaving the board, but leaving the church and moving away from St. Petersburg. And several of you were really hurt by that conflict as well. So here at UU St. Pete, we do have the opportunity to join, I think it's 241 UU congregations that have adopted the 8th principle. We did not when we discussed it before my time here, but we can now. And I think the UUA is taking this up at this year's General Assembly in Pittsburgh, and I hope that many of you will attend, because I'm attending. What's that? starting a task force here. Yes, thank you. It's a task force of the Social Justice Committee. It's not. We're starting a racial justice task force. And you can see Beth about it because I know the wrong details. Anyone else want to add to that? I'm looking for Cynthia. Are you here, Cynthia? No? Okay. Good. Sorry, one sec, John. So John Motter is saying you can look at, the UUA is going over our Article 2, which, yeah, see, I forgot most of what you said. But they did talk about this a lot at this year's General Assembly, the Article 2. All right, thanks, John. So Article 2 goes over all of our, and by our, this is the UUA's bylaws, and to see, although they were written with honor and integrity at the time, maybe need some catching up, maybe need some improvements from technology, maybe they're unintentionally patriarchal or white-centered or ableist, and yeah, we're going to continue that process this year. Exactly, and that was really the spirit of it, of the Article 2. Very hard-working commission, the Article 2 commission. Were you adding to this?
At our board meeting on Thursday, I moved that we create an 8th Principle Task Force, and it was second, and the motion carried. So we will be creating an 8th Principle Task Force to educate ourselves and to deliberate on what position we want to take on this.
Thank you, yes. Thank you for that. That was a lot. I appreciate it. Who are the most marginalized people in this faith community? I would say young BIPOC trans people. BIPOC meaning Black, Indigenous, people of color. BIPOC, it's a term, instead of saying people of color, that some BIPOC people have said, let's use this term. Trans meaning I'm a different gender than the one I was assigned at birth, or I don't believe in the gender binary that I am neither male nor female. My pronouns are they, them. So we have folks in the congregation whose pronouns are they, them, as well as those of us who are he, him, and she, her. We don't have anyone with Z. There's like other cool pronouns. I don't think we have anyone like that yet. No, you don't know how to pronounce? When will the church be accessible to people with disabilities? Such a good question. I'm kind of liking doing worship down here. I'm thinking of let's just do worship down here so that worship is accessible. Because right now my colleagues who use a wheelchair want to be the guest minister, they can't go up there where I can go. I know that Beth and others have done a lot of work on the facilities master plan and are continuing to do that work, so not soon enough. And then finally, a close friend of mine shared a concern with me and was shocked to find out that I felt the same. Even though we have been told since childhood that youth doesn't last forever, we have just begun facing the reality that life doesn't go on forever either. Up until this point, life has been a breeze. Good fortune has come easily, and our bodies have never caused us much pain. Now we're realizing that our darkest times are ahead of us. As we watch our parents grow older and our grandparents have begun passing away, we are coming to terms with the fact that ultimately we will all die someday. Her question to me, this questioner, which is now my question to you, is what's the point? She asked me. How do you keep marching forward while facing the fact that no one knows what comes next or what happens after we die? What makes life worth living? And my short answer is this right here. This present moment that I have with you, combined with this opportunity to be together, doing this combination of supporting one another and changing the world. Like we said, we all have different beliefs on what comes next. Is there an afterlife? What does it look like? But we do share this common faith that what we do in this world matters, that we're connected to one another and to the earth. And in particular, in this unique present moment, which only is now, we are connected to one another here in this building. So, and look where we are, both in time and in physical space. We're in Florida. We're in like the state that says it's not okay to say gay. We're in the state where women's reproductive freedom is being, it's not the only state, but we're in a state where reproductive freedom is being curtailed, is being crushed. And we're a religious community based on this liberal tradition that I talked about earlier. We are uniquely in a position to have an important voice that we can raise on these issues, and we can do it together. We can do it while supporting one another. So if you cannot sing like angels, you can do something and be part of our community, even if it's just your first day, because I am, because you are. So thank you for listening to my questions. Should we do the offering?
I got caught up in what he was saying and forgot my part. Yikes. Okay, sorry about that. Now let us remember our connection to one another, and let us not forget our contributions to support the means to those connections. The link to give online is in the description box below your screen. You can also donate through the Vanco Faith Engagement mobile app or on our website under the Giving tab at uustpete.org, or by sending a check to the church office. We have benefited from the efforts and contributions of previous generations. Our spiritual ancestors planted the vision of this fellowship. They sowed with their physical labor and their financial labor the harvest we are now enjoying. We follow in their footsteps and plant trees, knowing that we might not be the ones who harvest their fruits or see their grandeur. May our offering be one of the many ways in which our hands and the intentions of our hearts make manifest our love for one another and the world. In the sanctuary, our ushers will pass the offering bowls. If you are a newcomer here, please refrain from making a donation. This service is our gift to you, and your presence is your gift to us. Many thanks.
Now feel free to follow along with the hand gestures as Beth extinguishes our chalice. You can find our chalice extinguishing in your order of service online. It will be plopped into the text chat, plop, right now. We extinguish this flame but not the light of truth, the warmth of love, or the fire of courage. These we carry into our hearts and out into the world. Go in peace.